I was working the front desk at a hotel in Amsterdam when an American couple walked up to me. The woman looked angry. She slammed her room key on the counter and said, "We need a different room. This one is broken." I asked what was wrong. She pointed at her husband. He held up his phone charger. "Nothing works," he said. "We've been here 2 hours and we can't charge anything. Your outlets are defective." I looked at the charger. Then I looked at them. "Did you bring a plug adapter?" They both stared at me like I'd just spoken Dutch. Which, to be fair, I do. But I'd been speaking English. The husband said, "A what?" "An adapter. For European outlets. You're in the Netherlands. We use different plugs here." The wife's face went red. "Well, nobody told us that." I pointed to the bulletin board behind me. It had a huge sign in English that said, "Plug adapters available at front desk." She looked at it. Then she looked back at me. "That should have been in our confirmation email." They bought 2 adapters and left. My coworker came over and whispered, "How do they think the entire world uses the same plugs as them?" I didn't have an answer. But that wasn't even the strangest part of my week. 2 days later, a different American guest asked me why we didn't accept his dollars at the hotel restaurant. I told him we only take euros. He got frustrated. "But the exchange rate is almost 1-to-1, right?" I shook my head. "No. €1 is about $1.10 right now." He pulled out his phone and started typing. Then he showed me a Google search from 2002. "See? It says here they're basically the same." "That's from over 20 years ago," I said. He squinted at the screen. Then he put his phone away. "Well, you should take dollars anyway." "Everybody knows dollars." Another guest overheard this. She was from Germany. She turned to him and said, "Why would we take dollars in Europe?" He looked genuinely confused. "Because it's easier?" She just walked away. I sold him some euros at the desk. He counted them 3 times like I was trying to trick him. That same week, an American woman asked me where she could buy a map of Amsterdam. I told her most people just use their phones now. She said, "No, a real map. Paper." I directed her to a bookstore 2 streets away. She came back an hour later, annoyed. "That map is in kilometers. Don't you have one in miles?" I explained that the whole country uses kilometers. She sighed like this was a personal attack. "How am I supposed to know how far anything is?" "You could just learn what a kilometer is," I suggested. She did not like that answer. My friend works at the train station in Brussels. He told me about an American tourist who bought a ticket to Paris. The man got on the train, sat down, and then panicked 20 minutes later. He ran to the conductor and said, "We haven't stopped at any stations. Is this an express?" The conductor checked his ticket. "Yes, sir. This is the direct train to Paris. That's what you purchased." The man looked horrified. "But I wanted to see Belgium." "You're in Belgium right now," the conductor said. "Brussels is in Belgium." "No, I mean the countryside. The farms, the windmills." The conductor paused. "The windmills are mostly in the Netherlands." The man got off at the next stop and bought a ticket back to Brussels. He'd spent €80 to ride a train for 40 minutes. Another time, a woman asked my friend if the trains had bathrooms. He said yes. She asked if they were free to use. He said yes again. She looked suspicious. "But how do you pay for the water?" He had no idea what she meant. "You don't pay for water in a bathroom." "Not even a quarter?" she asked. He realized she thought train bathrooms worked like American highway rest stops. He explained that no, in Europe, you just use the bathroom. Sometimes you pay to enter a public toilet at a station, but not on the train itself. She seemed amazed by this. "So it's socialism?" she asked. He just said, "Sure," and walked away. I have my own train story. I was sitting in a quiet car from Berlin to Munich. A quiet car means no phones, no loud talking, just silence. There are signs everywhere. The seats have stickers. The ticket even warns you when you book. An American guy got on with his family. He was on a business call, talking loud. Everyone stared at him. He ignored them. A German woman finally tapped his shoulder and pointed to the quiet car sign. He moved the phone away from his mouth. "I'm on a call," he said. "This is the quiet car," she said. "I'll just be a few minutes." She pointed to the door. "You need to leave or end the call." He rolled his eyes, but got up and moved to the next car. His wife stayed behind with their kids. She turned to the German woman and said, "He's a lawyer." It was important. The German woman just put her headphones back on. The wife looked around at everyone else like we were the problem. Later, the same family got confused about their stop. They'd booked tickets to München Hauptbahnhof. When the train announcement said München, they didn't move. They waited for someone to say Munich. By the time they realized München is Munich in German, they'd missed their stop. The conductor had to help them figure out how to get back. The husband kept saying, "Why don't they just say it in English?" The conductor, in perfect English, said, "Because you are in Germany. My cousin worked at a car rental place in Rome. An American family rented a van. They came back 6 hours later, furious. 'Your van doesn't fit on the roads.' The dad shouted. My cousin went outside to look. The van was fine. It was a standard size. 'What happened?' he asked. 'We couldn't drive anywhere. The streets are too narrow.' My cousin nodded slowly. 'Yes, Rome is an old city. The streets are from ancient times. Did you try to drive in the historic center? We wanted to see the Colosseum.' 'You can't drive to the Colosseum,' my cousin explained. 'You have to park outside the center and walk.' The dad looked betrayed. 'Nobody told us that. It's in the rental information and on the city website, and there are signs.' The mom jumped in. 'Well, we don't speak Italian.' 'The signs have pictures,' my cousin said. They demanded a refund. They did not get one, but they did get a map with the walking areas highlighted. The dad took it and said, 'In America, you can drive anywhere.' My cousin said, 'Yes, America is newer and flatter.' The dad didn't have a response to that. A British guy I know works at the airport in London. He said American tourists always get confused about passport lines. They see one line for EU-UK citizens and one for everyone else. They try to get in the EU line. When staff redirect them, they argue. 'But we're allies,' one man said. 'Doesn't matter,' my friend explained. 'This line is for EU passports only. We have a special relationship, though. Not for passport control, you don't.' The man finally moved to the correct line. But he muttered about it the whole time, loud enough for everyone to hear. 'Thought we were friends,' he kept saying. Another American woman asked my friend if she needed her passport to go to Scotland. He said yes. She seemed shocked. 'But it's still the UK.' 'Yes, but you're entering from outside the UK,' he said. 'You need your passport to enter the country.' She thought about this. Then she asked, 'What if I just say I'm visiting family? Still need a passport?' She looked disappointed, like she'd found a loophole, and he'd ruined it. I worked as a server in Paris for 2 years. The stories I have could fill a book, but one stands out. An American couple came in for dinner. They sat down and immediately asked for water. I brought a bottle. They looked at it. 'We wanted tap water,' the man said. 'In France, you can ask for tap water. It's called une carafe d'eau.' But they didn't ask for that. They just said water. So I brought bottled water, which is standard. I explained this. The man sighed. 'In America, water is free.' 'Tap water is free here too,' I said. 'You just have to ask for it specifically.' 'That's a scam,' he said. His wife agreed. 'They do this to upcharge tourists.' I wanted to explain that no, we just have different customs. But they'd already decided I was trying to trick them. I brought them tap water. They didn't say thank you. Later, they asked why their food was taking so long. It had been 15 minutes. In France, meals are slow. You're supposed to enjoy them. I told them this. The man checked his watch. 'We have a tour at 8. It was 6:30. "You'll be fine," I said. "Not if the food takes forever," he said. I checked with the kitchen. Their food was almost ready, but the couple had already decided we were bad at our jobs. When I brought their meals, they ate fast and left. No dessert, no coffee. They were done in 20 minutes. The table sat empty for the rest of their reservation slot. My manager said, "Americans always do that." They eat like they're catching a bus. Another night, a different American guest flagged me down. Do you have ranch dressing? She asked. We did not. We're a French restaurant. I offered her vinaigrette or mustard dressing. She made a face. What do you put ranch on then? We don't really use ranch here, I said. She looked at her salad like it had personally offended her. How do you eat salad without ranch? With vinaigrette, I said. She ended up asking for olive oil and salt. She made her own dressing at the table. Her husband watched and said, See, you always figure it out. A waiter friend of mine in Barcelona has better stories. He said an American man once sent back his paella because it had seafood in it. I ordered paella, the man said. Not fish, my friend stared at him. Paella has seafood. That's what paella is. Not where I'm from. Where are you from? Texas, my friend nodded. In Spain, paella has seafood. The man thought about this. Then he said, Can you make it without the seafood? Then it's just rice, my friend said. The man seemed satisfied with this answer. Perfect. I'll have that. My friend brought him a plate of rice with vegetables. The man ate it and left a good review online about how authentic the food was. Another American woman asked my friend if the chorizo was spicy. He said yes, a little. She ordered it anyway. When it came out, she took one bite and pushed it away. This is too spicy, she said. I told you it was spicy, my friend said. I thought you meant like Taco Bell spicy. He had no idea what that meant. She explained that in America, Taco Bell is considered spicy by some people. He tried not to laugh. Spanish chorizo is not very spicy. But to her, it was unbearable. She ordered a plain pasta instead. One time, an American family came into the restaurant at 4 in the afternoon. They wanted dinner. My friend explained that the kitchen didn't open until 8. The dad looked confused. Why not? Because we're in Spain, my friend said. We eat dinner late. How late? Most people eat around 9 or 10. The whole family looked horrified. Their teenage son said, That's bedtime. They ended up going to a tourist trap near the beach that served food all day. My friend saw them walk past later with McDonald's bags. He wasn't surprised. I have a German friend who worked at a beer hall in Munich. She said Americans always tried to order a beer. Just that, a beer. She'd ask what kind. They'd say, just a regular beer. She'd explain that they have 10 beers on tap. Which one did they want? They'd look at the menu like it was a calculus test. Finally, someone would say, which one is most like Bud Light? She'd point to the lightest lager. They'd order it. Then they'd complain it tasted different. It's German beer, she'd say. In Germany. Yeah, but Bud Light is everywhere, they'd argue. She'd just bring them their beer and walk away. One American guy asked her why they didn't have ice. Ice for what? She asked. For the beer. She thought he was joking. He was not joking. He genuinely wanted ice in his beer. She told him that's not a thing in Germany. He said, It should be. Beer is better cold. It is cold, she said, but not cold enough. She brought him a glass of ice cubes on the side. He plopped them into his beer. Everyone at the nearby tables stared. One old German man actually got up and left. She said it was the most uncomfortable she'd ever felt at work. I studied abroad in college. I'm from Portugal. I met an American student who asked me if I spoke Spanish. I said no, I speak Portuguese. She looked confused. Isn't that the same thing? I explained that no, Portuguese and Spanish are different languages. She didn't believe me. But you're right next to Spain, she said. Yes, but we speak different languages. She thought about this. Like how people in Texas speak Texan. I didn't even know how to respond to that. I just said, sure, and changed the subject. Another American student asked me if Portugal was in South America. I said no. She argued with me. But you speak Portuguese, and Brazil speaks Portuguese, and Brazil is in South America. Yes, but Portugal is in Europe, I said. She pulled out her phone and Googled it. Then she looked embarrassed. Oh, I always thought you guys were near Brazil. We're 3,000 miles away, I said. She nodded like that made sense. That's not that far. It is, though. It's very far. My roommate was from Poland. She had similar stories. An American guy asked her if Poland was part of Russia. She said no. He said, "But you were, right? Like, before?" "We were under Soviet control," she said. "We were never part of Russia itself." "Same thing," he said. She got very quiet. Then she said, "It's not the same thing." And she walked away. He didn't understand why she was upset. I had to explain that Poland takes its independence very seriously. He said, "I was just asking a question." Later that semester, a group of American students planned a trip to Amsterdam. One of them asked how long it would take to drive to Paris from there. Someone said about 5 hours. The American guy said, "That's so far." My Portuguese friend laughed. "That's nothing. You can drive across 4 countries in that time." The American guy looked amazed. "Really?" "Yes. The Netherlands to Belgium to France to Luxembourg? Easy," he shook his head. "In Texas, you can drive for 5 hours and still be in Texas." We all stared at him. "That sounds boring," someone finally said. He got defensive. "It's not boring. It's big. It's empty space," my roommate said. The argument lasted 20 minutes. Nobody won. I also worked at a hostel in Lisbon for a summer. An American guest asked me how far it was to the beach. I said about 3 kilometers. He stared at me. "How much is that in miles?" "About 2 miles," I said. "Why didn't you just say that?" "Because we use kilometers here." He sighed. "The metric system is so confusing." I wanted to explain that the metric system is actually very simple. It's based on tens, but he'd already walked away. He came back an hour later and said, "I walked for 30 minutes and didn't find the beach." "Did you walk toward the river?" I asked. "No, I walked that way." He pointed inland, away from the water. I pulled up a map and showed him. He said, "Your map is wrong. I used my phone." His phone was correct. He just walked in the opposite direction of what it told him. I showed him this. He squinted at his screen. "The GPS is bad here," he said. It wasn't. He'd just ignored it. Another guest asked me why the temperature was so high. I checked. It was 25 degrees Celsius. I said, "That's about 77 Fahrenheit. Pretty normal for summer." She looked relieved. "Oh, okay. I thought it was 25 degrees. And I was like, "Why is everyone in shorts?" I realized she thought we used Fahrenheit. I explained we don't. She said, "That's so confusing. Why doesn't everyone just use the same system?" "Most countries do," I said. "America is one of the only places that doesn't use Celsius." She didn't believe me. I showed her on my phone. She read the list of countries that use Fahrenheit. It was 3: the United States, Liberia, and Myanmar. She said, "Huh, I thought it would be more." Then she asked why we wrote the date backwards. I asked what she meant. She showed me her booking confirmation. It said 15/08/2024. She said, "That should be 08/15/2024. In Europe, we do day, then month, then year," I explained. "But why?" "Why does America do month, then day, then year?" I asked back. She didn't have an answer for that. She just said, "Because it makes sense." "To you," I said. She thought about this. Then she said, "I guess you're right." But it's still weird. A guy from Australia overheard this conversation. He jumped in. You know what's really weird? Your dates. You write month, day, year. That's not logical. Small to big, or big to small makes sense. But middle, small, big? That's chaos, the American woman said. We've always done it that way. That doesn't make it right, he said. They argued for 10 minutes. I stopped listening. But it ended with both of them agreeing that the other's system was wrong. Neither changed their mind. My favorite measurement story happened at the hostel in summer. An American man asked how deep the pool was. I said 1.5 meters. He asked me to convert it to feet. I said about 5 feet. He nodded. Then he asked, "Is that deep enough to dive?" "No," I said. "It's a shallow pool. No diving." He looked at the pool. Then he looked at me. "But 5 feet is pretty deep." "Not for diving," I said. He didn't believe me. He went and stood by the pool. He stared at it for a while. Then he came back. "Yeah, okay. That's shallow," I wanted to say. "I know. I work here." But I just smiled and nodded. My last story is my favorite. I was back working in Amsterdam. An American couple checked in for a 3-night stay. On their second day, the wife came to the desk. She looked upset. "We need to talk to a manager," she said. I asked what was wrong. She said, "This city is not what we expected." I asked her to explain. She took a deep breath. "Everything is in Dutch." I waited for more. There wasn't more. That was the complaint. "Yes," I said. "You're in the Netherlands. The language here is Dutch." "But everyone speaks English," she said. "So, why are the signs in Dutch?" I didn't know how to answer that. I tried. "Because Dutch people live here. It's their country. English is just a common second language." "That's false advertising," she said. "What is?" "The whole city. The websites make it seem like it's easy for English speakers, but we can't read anything." I pointed out that most signs have English translations. The museums have English audio guides. The restaurants have English menus. She didn't care. "But the street signs are in Dutch," she said. "Yes," I said again. "Because you're in the Netherlands." Her husband came over. He backed her up. "She's right. We were told everyone speaks English here." "They do," I said. "But that doesn't mean the country changes its language." They didn't get it. They wanted the whole city to be in English. Not just the tourist areas, everything. The husband said, "If you want tourists, you should make it easier for them." I explained that millions of tourists visit Amsterdam every year. Most of them figure it out. He said, "Well, we shouldn't have to figure it out." I gave them a tourist map with English labels. They took it, but still seemed annoyed. That night, they left a review online. It said, Amsterdam was beautiful, but not foreigner-friendly. They gave the city 3 stars, because it was in Dutch. My manager read the review and laughed. "What did they expect?" he asked. I shrugged. I think they expected everyone to adjust to them. And that's the thing about these stories. They keep happening. Every week, there's a new one. A new person confused about plugs or kilometers or why other countries don't use dollars. A new complaint about trains being too quiet, or food being too slow, or signs being in the wrong language. And every time, the conversation ends the same way, with someone from that country trying to explain that different places do things differently, and someone from America insisting that their way makes more sense. It's exhausting, but it's also kind of funny, because the rest of the world has figured out how to travel, how to adapt, how to learn a few words in another language, or convert kilometers to miles in their head. But there's always that one person who refuses, who stands in the middle of a foreign country and demands that it make sense to them. It's like looking in a mirror. but only if you're willing to see what's reflected back. And that's the problem.